So, it's 1988. Dunlop is celebrating 100 years of rubber. The Incredible Hulk returns. The Soviets withdrew from Afghanistan. Eddie the Eagle soars. NASA relaunches after the Challenger disaster.
3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower. Roger roll, Discovery.
A woman, Benazir Bhutto, is chosen as Prime Minister of Pakistan, becoming the first female leader of a Muslim country. And Mazda is making some new noises. But deep in the concrete and steel jungles of Europe, there is a cat on the prowl for a horse. This particular horse's name is Porsche, and it's been doing this one thing for the past 7 years: winning Le Mans.
For the favorite, there's just nothing to worry about.
Now, this dominance is unheard of, and for the past 2 years, Jag has been trying to root out the German, like it was 1944. In fact, the clash was meant to be a three-way battle, including the Mercedes Sauber team. But unfortunately, after a blowout, they were forced to relinquish that chance. This would have been the first time Mercedes would have came back to Le Mans after the disaster of 1955.
All seems to be going smoothly when disaster strikes at 125 miles an hour. LeVay's Mercedes collides and blows up. In a few ghastly seconds, death wipes out whole families. LeVay is killed before his wife's eyes, and some 70 spectators with him. Among the bodies, frantic survivors seek their friends. The Mercedes was made partly of magnesium alloy, which blazes like a furnace. Lance Macklin's Austin Healey, hit by the doomed car before it crashed, is wrecked, but miraculously Macklin is unhurt. While firemen fight the blaze, the race goes on. Most of the vast crowd know nothing of the tragedy.
So Jaguar came with 5 cars and effectively 2 teams. The European team, managed by Roger Silman, consisted of the number 1 car driven by Martin Brundle and John Nielsen, the number 2 car driven by John Lammers, Andy Wallace, and Johnny Dumfries, and the number 3 car driven by Henry Pescarolo, John Watson, and Rob Boesel. And the European team, managed by Tony Doe, consisted of the number 21 car driven by Danny Sullivan, Davy Jones, and Bryce Cobb, and the number 22 car driven by Derek Daly, Kevin Cogan, and Larry Perkins. The reason they had effectively 2 teams was because they basically had 2 cars. They had the International Motorsports Association spec and the World Sports Prototype Championship spec. The biggest difference between the two was that the IMSA spec had a smaller 6-liter, 60-degree, 650 horsepower V12. Meanwhile, the WSPC spec had a larger 7-liter, 750 horsepower, 60-degree V12. They both had cast aluminum heads with 2 valves per cylinder attached to a cast iron block. They both ran with Lucas Micros management systems and were both water-cooled. The other major difference was that the IMSA spec had a 120-liter fuel tank, meanwhile the WSPC spec had a 100-liter fuel tank. They were both rear-wheel drive attached to a 5-speed DWR transmission. Now, you may think more cars the merrier, but with 5 cars, that means they had effectively a car pitting every 10 minutes. And legend says that not a single complaint was heard. I shaved. Moving on. On the other side, over 13 956s were racing. Even though the works team, i.e. the factory team, only brought 3 cars. The number 17 driven by Derek Bell, Hans-Joachim Struck, and Klaus Ludwig. The number 18 car driven by Bob Wallach, Cyril van der Merwe, and Vern Schuppen. And the 19 car driven by Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti, and John Andretti, hoping to win Le Mans as a family. All 3 of the works Porsches at some point held the lead, and thanks to their turbocharged engine, they were able to qualify first, second, and third, with Jaguar qualifying 4th just behind them. The The other 10 Porsche teams were driven by privateers. As 260,000 spectators patiently awaited for 3 p.m. for the tricolors to drop, little did they know they were about to witness one of the most intense Le Mans in history.
Well, we're coming up now towards the start, towards that last corner, the 3 Porsches in red and yellow, the fastest cars in practice because, of course, they're turbocharged, they can turn up the boost, which means in practice they can go quicker, and Porsche always like to be fastest in practice. But the important thing is not who's fastest in practice, it's who wins the race. 3 Works Porsches versus 5 Jaguars, and the winner of the 1988 Le Mans is 24 hours ahead of us. As we come up to this last corner, you'll see the pace car pull off to the right up the pit road, and then the race will be on, and it's usually exactly at 4 o'clock. Today, this year it's a bit earlier, it's 3 o'clock because of the French elections. Off goes the pace car. 24 hours from now, we'll know who's won the race. Down the straight where the cars reach roughly 245, 250 miles an hour, and here are the Porsches and the Jaguar already among them.
Yes, Lammers moving into 3rd place, I think, splitting the Porsche team already. There he is. Look at Lammers is now in 2nd place.
By the end of the first lap, Hans Struck in the number 17 Porsche was in the lead, with Hans Lammers in the number 2 Jag right behind him, gnawing for first. It wasn't until lap 6 where Lammers was able to catapult into first.
I think Lammers has taken the leading Porsche.
Lammers led the pack, with 3 Porsches stuck behind him, gnawing for pole position, only relinquishing the lead in order to pit and regaining it when the Porsches pitted.
Well, here we see the battle. There's the Jaguar, there's the Porsche. The pit stops are over, the first round of pit stops are over, and we're back more or less where we started.
This back and forth was so prevalent that by the 12-hour mark, the lead was jostled no fewer than 22 times between the number 2 Jaguar and the 3 factory Porsches. But like Mike Tyson said,
are sadly missing the number 3 car, the Pescarolo, Bralbazel, John Watson car that has stopped out on the circuit with what we are told is a transmission problem.
the number 21 car, which was in 3rd place, also suffered problems with its gearbox and was forced to slow down in order to try and finish. 2 impromptu pit stops were also made to have the rear body changed to eliminate transmission vibration. These zip tie fixes allowed the 21 car to soldier on, even though it was in 24th place by 5 a.m. After recovering from a spin at Indianapolis, a stone hit the radiator and caused water loss and overheating, eventually splitting the head and putting the number 1 Jag out of commission. And if that wasn't bad enough,
here's the rain as we feared might happen, and this could change the whole thing around all over again. Jaguar number 2 leads. Jaguar number 2 leads this 1988 Le Mans 24-hour race.
the number 2 Jag also had its troubles, needing to pit in order to replace a cracked windshield around 6:30 a.m. Surprisingly, the number 22 car ran with little issue and was able to stay in 5th. By the 18th hour, the number 2 Jag was leading the 17 Porsche by 100 seconds. The 22 car had managed to nab 4th. But with 2 hours to go, Derek Bell pulled into the pits with fuel pump problems. By the time they fixed the issue and sent Klaus Ludwig, who despite his best efforts to make up the lost time, was simply unable to close the gap. As the final minutes of the race came, Tom Walkinshaw instructed the 3 remaining Jags to assemble for a formation finish. And after completing 394 laps, covering 3,313.15 miles at an average speed of 137.72 miles per hour. The number 2 Jag, car 488, crossed the finishing line 2 minutes 36.85 seconds ahead of the number 17 Porsche.
And they've brought great joy to the huge British contingent in this vast crowd. Many people have come over. We're told 50,000 British spectators here, amongst the enormous crowd of French spectators and German and Italians and everyone else. A lot of American people here too. But I think it's fair to say this is a win for the Brits, and they're going to enjoy it. They're flooding the track. The cars, of course, have to be stopped. Nobody can go round again. The cars coming in behind the Jaguars have got to be stopped so they don't rush into the crowd. But it's a great achievement and will bring great prestige to the name of Jaguar.
This win wasn't just a fluke or luck. It was a culmination of 3 years of hard work by Tom Walkinshaw. Walkinshaw was only able to earn the trust of Jaguar after 4 wins in the 1982 European Touring Car Championship, with 2 supply Jaguars. These wins got TWR a Jaguar sponsorship in 1983 when they were given the task of Le Mans. The Jaguar already tried themselves in 1984 with XJR-5 with no luck as neither car was able to finish, and in 85 with only one of them able to cross the line with only 11 cylinders running. In 86, they brought the new XJR-6 designed by Tony Southgate, and it was also Tom's first time at Le Mans with Jaguar, and the car also failed to finish. In 1986, they brought the new XJR-8 with a 720 horsepower 7-liter V12, and of the 3 cars entered, only one was able to finish in 5th. But in 1988, Jaguar didn't just want to win Le Mans, they wanted the entire series. So, in Daytona in 1988, the TWR XJR-9 was able to win the opening race. But you know, there was some luck, because with Jags, you need some luck. The car that won, car 488, was entered in 4 races in 1988. It DNF'd 3 of them, and didn't even start the 4th one. This car was able to hold the lead from the 2nd lap on. Wallace had never driven a car in excess of 200 miles an hour, was going down the Mulsanne Straight at over 240 miles an hour. And what truly cements this as one of the greatest Le Mans in history is this.
Yeah, Jan radioed in with about 3 laps to go that he was starting to have trouble with some gear selection. And so the other cars were around, and that's when I started radioing them to say, right, you know, I'm going to try and get you behind LeMans, and then once you're behind there, then, you know, if he has a problem, you have to push the damn thing home. And that's what they were told to do. So it wasn't for photographers or Autosport or whatever that we had the 3 cars there. They were there to do a job. Should he run out and lose drive on the last lap, their job was to push it there. And that was it. That's what they were told.